Coming up on today's episode of the Salesman Podcast.
Well, I think that sales is going to come full circle back to what it really was when we started. It was about a service. You're providing a service. Service is the new sales, and it always really has been.
Hello, Sales Nation. I'm Will Barron, host of the Salesman Podcast, and welcome to today's episode. Today's show, we have Jon Ferrara, and we're diving into the future of sales. Jon is a very interesting guy. He's a very intelligent guy, as you'll see from the show itself. But essentially, he created almost single-handedly the CRM industry. His new CRM, Nimble, which you find out at nimble.com, is pretty much the only CRM that I can recommend these days from a social selling, from a kind of information gathering standpoint. It does really well on that front. And yeah, so he's super qualified to talk about sales in 20 years' time. And the question and the overarching topic and theme of the show is essentially, will we as salespeople exist in another 20 years' time? As I said, you can find out more about Jon over at nimble.com. And with all that said, without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Hey, Jon, and welcome back to the Salesman Podcast.
Will, I am super excited to be here with you today. I love to get up on the soapbox of the power of relationships and their ability to help you achieve your passion, talent, and purpose in life. And I know that your show is all about powering people.
Good, man. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad to dive into this topic with you specifically, because I know you're going to have some interesting and unique insights on this. So to frame the conversation, I want to get to, perhaps at the end of the show, what sales is going to look like in 2020 and the kind of clickbait title of this episode of will our roles still exist in 2020 as well? But I want to, keep the perhaps practical sales advice to one side and just have a deep, interesting conversation about this. So to start and to frame it and to lead up and to build a bit of tension, I guess let's start 5 years out from here. Jon, how do you think sales is going to change over the next 5 years? And, what will salespeople be doing at that point in time?
Well, I think that sales is going to come full circle back to what it really was when we started. It was about a service. You're providing a service. Service is the new sales, and it always really has been. It's only because of mass manufacturing that occurred in the late 1800s and early 1900s that produced so much product that we had to use madmen marketing and slick willy salespeople who went door to door and pounded on doors to sell the brushes that we manufactured too much of, where sales stopped truly being a service from a small town where you built your reputation on the promises you make and the experiences that you deliver, to used car salesmen and all the slick willy things that we think of that made sales a four-letter word. I think that customers have a deeper expectation of the companies they do business with, that they don't want to talk to slick willy salespeople. They don't want to read marketing materials. And in many cases, they've done all their buying before they ever come to you. What you should do as a company is really think of your sales as customer success and build people that are compensated based on customer satisfaction. And so I think that sales is going to turn into service, and that the whole idea of interacting with a customer will not be to bag them and tag them, but to help them become better, smarter, faster.
Okay, so there's two ways that this could perhaps go, so get your thoughts on this. There's one where the individual salesperson, their reputation as an individual becomes more and more important. They become perhaps even mini industry experts and mini industry celebrities. There'll perhaps be less B2B salespeople, but they'll have a team underneath them to help support them, and they'll be the front face, and then they'll have a team to help with data and work underneath them from that side. So that seems like one angle that's reasonable. Another angle...
It depends on the company size. Now, I think that for a larger company, that is the case today. And there's actually somebody that you should probably interview, the former sales rep for Oracle that now recently started a new business consulting in this area. But there's a lot of people that are doing just that. And I believe that a company brand is built on the promises it makes and the experiences that it delivers. And most of that experience is delivered through customer-facing business team members, which means if you help them to build their brand, that will then build the company brand. And that any smart salesperson today is building their personal brand and their professional network by sharing content that is inspirational and educational in and around the areas of promise of their products and services, not telling people how great they are, but teaching people how they could be great, so that they then set themselves up as a trusted advisor. So when their customers need something, they not only pick up the phone and call them, but they drag their friends with them. And so Timothy Hughes from Oracle, now on his own consulting, is a gentleman in England. You'll love him. You should interview him. But he's the epitome of what you just described.
I think we've reached out to him. He might be in the diary. I'm not 100% certain. We've definitely reached out to him. So I will. We'll update that, Sales Nation, when he comes on the show.
Use my name.
I will name drop you, John. I'll say John said that you have to appear in the next week or so, otherwise, bad things will happen. The John Mafia is going to rock up at his door.
I'll send my Goombas out after.
John. So that seems like one option that there's less salespeople, the industry experts, the industry celebrities, people know them in the industry. That seems like one option. The other option, and again, you kind of alluded to this, it might depend on business size, product size, deal size, that kind of thing. But the other option, it seems that with the introduction of SDRs, with the splitting of the sales cycle and sales process into different roles, it seems like there's an opportunity for the quote unquote like account manager or salesperson to kind of disappear a little bit as well, and for it to become a seamless just passing down individuals as you go down the sales funnel. In which case there isn't a one person, there isn't a industry expert, there isn't a mini celebrity. Is that an option as well, or is this dependent on a number of other factors to decide which way it would go?
Well, I think it actually blends together, because if you think about it, the company still needs a brand and they need people to help build that brand. So if you look at a company like HubSpot has thought leaders that have built their brand by sharing content and engaging with the community. And it's not just salespeople, it's not just PR people, it's people throughout the entire organization. And that's the way I recommend that you build your brand as a company, is to empower people throughout your company to be building their brand and therefore build the company brand. But ultimately, if you have these thought leaders like salespeople there doing that, they could still attract people to the company, in which case you then have all the layered roles around them in order to scale these people and scale the interactions with the company. But I think that we're going to move further away from a role of sales to a role of customer success. So at Nimble, we have no salespeople and we have no marketing people. All we have are customer success people and community people. The community people build conversations with the community through content and engagement, and then that drives people to our website where they self-convert, and then our customer success people facilitate their success. So we're not doing any prospecting or SDR or outbound sort of engagement, which a lot of people today do. But today, I think you could actually build and fill your funnel by simply sharing content that's inspirational and educational in around the areas of promise of your product, and ideally do that through the influencers of your products and services, and then build that traffic and then build a team in order to focus on the higher marketing qualified leads that are more revenue for you with this customer success team.
How is automation going to fit into this? And again, in this 5-year window, and then we'll go further down the line in a second, which might include AI and other things. But how does automation fall into all of this if you've got, because a lot of what you described, you would take some of the magic away perhaps if it was more automated, less, because there must be, let's talk about AI for a second, because there must be people developing this, if it doesn't already exist, that an AI can give it a topic, it knows the structure of a really engaging post, it can flap around the internet and without plagiarizing make its own mind up about quotes and ideas and theories and come up with an algorithm and a structure to build a great piece of content. Is that going to shake up sales and marketing? Is that going to become a thing in the next 5 years, or is that way off into the future?
Well, I think that what you're basically saying is if you want to, if you think about your prospects and customers, and ideally their influences as well. Because as a business, you shouldn't just be focused on prospects and customers. You should be focused on the entire community around those prospects and customers in order to build conversation, get top of mind, and influencer marketing is huge today, as you know. But ultimately, what you want to do is build top of mind with the digital river that's flowing through and around your company. And so what you do is you drop these fishing lures out there in order to get bites, in order to then start conversations with the right person at the right time. And you're just talking about content where AI will help you to build or find the best content. And that's actually available today. So you could use things like BuzzSumo and Tracker and Littlebird and a lot of different tools to identify both content and influencers who create the best content. But there isn't AI that'll take that content and then derive a new post algorithmically off that content. But I'm sure that that will occur. But what we're talking about is beyond the content. So that's the top of the funnel. Mm-hmm. So once you have driven shared content, gotten the bites, then what you need to do is determine which one of those bites, which one of those fish you actually want to take home on the boat. And so that starts this quote sales process. And that is a blend of sales and marketing and social. And so I think the trend in the industry is to begin to blend social, sales, and marketing, and not just have sales and marketing people participate in that process and conversation, but a community team of people that are part of that process of the new customer journey and the new team of people that are engaging them, not just in order to close them, but to keep them and to get referrals as well. And I think that if you Google McKinsey customer journey, you'll see that the funnel has changed into more of a life cycle or a pretzel. And in order to participate in that digital journey, to become a trusted advisor to your prospects, customers, and their influences as well, will require you to rethink the way you do business.
Let's go a step deeper with this AI then, because this really interests me. If we've got this customer journey that we're trying to, how to describe it, we're trying to lube it up, we're trying to grease it and make it as smooth possible whilst adding value and all the stuff that we associate with sales specifically. Yeah. But surely an AI bot can, with an algorithm, can suss out to some extent whether they are ready, the budgets, whether it's the right time, whether it's speaking to the right person, and go back and forth. And surely they can do a lot of the qualifying and prospecting for the, perhaps before a salesperson gets on the other end of it. Is that something that we're likely to see, or are humans too good, perhaps, and or too stupid and too erratic to be able to have a conversation with a bot that it makes sense and to add real value from that?
Will, I think we're already seeing that. If you were to call up a bank or an airline today or many other sophisticated businesses, there are conversational bots that will walk you through the funnel process in order to get you to the right person at the right time. But ultimately, I find these bots frustrating at a certain point. I mean, I find them delightful that they get me to a certain point, but ultimately I find myself hitting zero so many times. And I believe that the more digital we get, the more human we need to be, and that we all value human connection and conversation. Will, the reason why I am on this call with you today is because we've developed a relationship. Not one as deep as I would prefer, because I kind of like you, but we're both busy doing whatever we do, but we have a relationship. We kind of dig things about each other that are beyond the business aspect. And I believe that human beings love to interact with other human beings. That's why we all live like this all day long. We're so starving for human connection and conversation that we share posts all day long and respond to other people's posts just to get people to see us. So human beings love human beings. And I think that there will always be a role for human beings in the life cycle of a customer. But we need more intelligence and workflow automation in order to scale the interactions with them. And I'll give you an example. Today, most market automation systems are stupid. In other words, they don't know a thing about the person or the company in the automation of the processes that they do. So the typical sales and marketing technology tech stack is you get a lead, It goes through your site. You convert it into whatever information you collect, and you put it in the marketing automation system to lead nurture it till it's marketing qualified. At that point, everybody goes on the same track. Everybody gets the same drip because you don't know anything about that person. There's no enrichment of contact or company information in a typical marketing automation system of whether you're talking about MailChimp or Constant Contact all the way up to HubSpot, et cetera. And so ultimately, unless you know who somebody is and what their business is about, you can't do a one-to-one conversation or outreach. But in fact, you need to in order to cut through the clutter and increase your open and click rates. So I believe the future social sales and marketing technology stack is going to convert from the 4 or 5 apps that you need today in order to manage the customer lifecycle, which is market automation, CRM, sales intelligence, and sales enablement email tracking. That's the basic technology tech stack that you need today. And today, that's going to cost you $300 to $500 per month per rep for that stack. They don't talk to each other. It's too complex to use. And ultimately, it doesn't deliver on the promise of the right customer, right time, right message. So I think that we will see a more nimble platform that helps individuals and businesses intelligently engage at scale with some automation, but ultimately surfaces that connection to somebody within your organization that can do the human thing. Because I truly believe that humans dig humans.
And is that the crux of the whole conversation here, Jon, that in 2020, in 2050, no matter what it is, as long as the deal size is big enough and people have something on the line by doing the deal, of course, if you're buying a laptop or something, you can probably just get away with it. And the risk or the opportunity for a poor ROI on something like that is not big enough to warrant kind of spending time with a salesperson. But the bigger deals, will we always have to have a salesperson, whether it's called sales, whether it's called marketing, whether it's called customer, relationship, whatever it is, will we always have, and I'm gun to head here, yes, no, will we always have to have an individual on the other end of the phone or in person?
Will, you heard it from me here first. There will always be a need for humans in the process of sales with customers at some point for many products. And I'll give you 2 stories. One, I bought a new Sony TV recently. Now, I had a Sony TV before. It broke. I decided I needed a new one. I wasn't going to buy Sony because I had 2 Sony products that died recently. What I did is I began my journey of purchase because of that initial trigger, the dying of the TV. I didn't go to the TV store. I didn't go to the websites of the TV companies. I went to Amazon. I went to blogs of other influencers who review these products, and I built my initial consideration set. From that point, I did a little bit of research, and I narrowed it down to Samsung, LG, and Sharp. I went to a store because I need to see the TV, because I appreciate the value of my eyes on that screen. After looking at all the screens, and even the Sony, and talking to the rep on the floor, because that person has been working in that store for 10 years. I know it. I bought a couple TVs there. I bought the Sony. Why? Because it was the best product for the best price. And after that purchase, I continued to do research because you want to make sure you bought the right product. And it was only after that post-purchase evaluation that I then had the loyalty loop where I not only bought another Sony TV for my guest room, but I've told tens of thousands of people on huge podcasts and blog posts about the journey of social selling. And so that's an example of a not too expensive product. The other example is the Apple Store. Now, Apple Store sells a lot of product. Not much of it is really that high end. But the reason they built those stores is the same reason why we love in America to shop at Nordstrom's. Because we like to go and look and touch things and interact with human beings. And when Nordstrom's closes a sale with you, that's a department store here in the United States, you know what they do? They walk around the counter and they hand you the bag. They walk into your space, and there's almost a touch when they're handing you a bag where they almost touch you. In some cases, they do. And that touch builds a bond between you and that person, and therefore the brand. And guess who's doing that now? Apple Store. So Apple studied Nordstrom's and they implemented the same type of service that Nordstrom's and Ritz-Carlton does. And that service, that differentiation causes me to spend more money because Apple computers cost more, clothes at Nordstrom's cost more, and people are willing to pay for experience and service.
So pushing this further forward then, so let's talk about 2020 now. So what's that?
Yeah.
15 years away. It's likely that we have all got Apple contact lenses in that are beeping us and pinging us or zapping our brain.
Did you say 2020?
Yeah.
That's 4 years away.
Oh, sorry. Let's talk about 2040 then.
Okay,
let's just push it that bit further.
Yeah.
So we've got, contact lenses that are beeping us, or, it's an implant that goes in your ear or whatever it is. It's unlikely that we've got this phone. TVs are obsolete because we've all got...
The phone's going to be this virtual screen that can just pop up, and it's basically embedded in your head. Yeah.
We've got a drone that you just throw up in the morning. It follows you around, and that does all your Casey Neistat kind of vlogs, and you share that content with the world. Whether anyone watches it or not is a completely different conversation.
I hope that we're over the me stuff.
Well, it's unlikely though, isn't it? Exactly. Well, look, we're both, we've probably got ulterior motives to being on the show, and in my case, it's to build an audience, to build a platform, to get more attention for what we're doing, and to put our show sponsors in the spotlight there, and obviously I get revenue from that. For yourself, it's to talk about Nimble, but it's also nice to know that you've added value to people through creating content like this as well. So I don't think that's going to change. I may be totally wrong. I think we're going to be totally flooded with just nonsense from, even like my dad will be vlogging his gardening that he's doing, and no one will watch it, no one will care, but he'll feel empowered that his story's being told and it's online forever. So I don't think that's going to change. But do you think then that with all these notifications, with all this stuff going on, with unlimited access to pretty much anyone and data, this human to human, this touch when you get the bag from the clothing store, is that going to become even more valuable than what we see it from today?
Amen. Right? So essentially getting some sort of physical thing from somebody else, whether it's a note or a business card or an actual conversation, is going to be even more valuable. As I said earlier, the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And ultimately, I think it comes down to your purpose to be on this planet, Will. And I think our purpose to be on the planet is to grow our souls and help other people grow theirs. And we do that by doing what you and I are doing right now. We're sharing our passion, plan, and purpose, and ultimately, the goal is to help each other become better, smarter, faster, to help blow a little wind in that other person's sail. And I think that social is changing the way we communicate, and the expectation that we have of each other, and the transparency that we have. I think we're getting back down to a small village in this global community, and that your reputation is built on the promises you make and the experiences that you deliver. And that's the same way it was 100 years ago in a small village. So I think that we're coming full circle from mass manufacturing, madmen marketing, back to really valuing that sort of human connection. And that's why I tell people, pick up the phone, right? Go actually and meet with somebody and talk to them in person, because it's such a valuable way to build relationships. And I really believe that relationships are the heart of the reason why we're here.
Definitely. And do you see, again, let me pitch this to you, because clearly marketing automation is moving over to sales. We've touched on it in today's show. Do you feel like there's going to be a rise of all this in sales, then it's going to crash and burn, and then we're going to, it might be in 2020, it might be in 4 or 5 years' time that we have this realization that we were going about it the wrong way, much as marketing has done now, where they realize one-on-one marketing is where it's at, rather than spam every single person that they possibly can with as many emails for those short-term conversions?
Well, if you look at the sales and marketing technology stack today, you have these tools for list building and prospecting and contact enrichment and segmentation and email tracking, and then pre-call research, and then the CRM. So that there's like there's sales intelligence and there's email tracking and all these things, and people are sort of misusing these things today. So I get dozens of emails every day from people that have personalized these emails, but they're not really that personalized, and they're basically trying to pitch me on something, but in a one-to-one way. And I think that that kind of automation was interesting at first because it wasn't coming from a MailChimp or an Infusionsoft or a HubSpot. It was coming from somebody's email. But I think that we're going to need to go beyond that, and that every touch, every outreach really needs to feel like you've earned the right to reach out to them, and that you're reaching out to help that person become better, smarter, faster, and you're clearly stating that, and you're seen as a trusted advisor. And to do that effectively at scale, I don't know if it's possible. It could be assisted by technology, but ultimately it requires a human to be part of that process, whether it's in building the outreach or in responding to what that person says. Because if you send these digital outreaches at scale, if somebody responds, somebody needs to read that and then actually respond in an intelligent way. And computers aren't at that point yet today. And so going out to 2040 with all the embedded stuff, and we will have embedded stuff, because right now, if you think about when I grew up, knowledge was in an encyclopedia and a dictionary. And I used to take them to bed. I used to take them to the bathroom and read them cover to cover, because I love knowledge, and knowledge is power. Because if you have knowledge, you could see the history of a situation, you could see the details of a situation and make better decisions. Today, we rely on this for our knowledge, and that in order for you to compete, this is going to have to go in here for you to be able to see this stuff quicker and in context wherever you're at. So if I'm at a function and I see you and there's salesman, red, Will, yeah, right? Because we're over-connected and over-communicated, and it's just going to get worse. So those that do this will have an advantage of those that refuse to do that, and eventually there's going to be the do's and don'ts. So it's going to be interesting, that whole process, but I still think that we will value the physical, the human, the authentic, the relevant higher and higher as we continue to get bombarded by all the automation. And it's only going to get noisier because 5 years ago, when I started teaching social selling, before people even knew what social was, it was new, and you could build a brand very quickly by effectively sharing content. But today, everybody's spewing content, and I think we have to find new ways to differentiate ourselves. And I think the best way to differentiate yourself is to demonstrate your ability to help other people grow at scale, and your interest in every engagement to do just that. And the best way to do that is to prepare before a meeting, because it's your job to understand who somebody is and what their business is about. And then in the engagement, ask a few questions, shut the F up, listen as much as you can, and then offer ways for that person to achieve their passion, plan, and purpose, which could mean recommending somebody else's solution.
Nice. Jon, I've got a couple of questions to ask everyone on the show. We'll have to rattle through these because I'm conscious of time. So these are quick fire, short answers if possible. First one, are you more productive in the morning or in the evening?
I love the morning.
Nice.
I like to get up at 5:30, brew my cup of coffee, have some quiet time myself, and then be able to have some family time, and then get into the day. The evenings for me are times for walking and exercising and just beginning to wind down.
Cool. Okay, next one. Dollar size if possible. What's the biggest deal you've ever closed?
So back in the day, I worked my way through my computer science degree at my university by working in a computer store. Back then, there were no computers on desktops in corporations. So imagine you worked in a computer store, you were selling all these PCs to all these corporations, and there were none of them. So the margin on those PCs was 55%, which means that you were making 55% of every dollar as profit. And we were selling literally truckloads, pallets of them. And I sold, I think, 4 pallets of PCs. It was something like $8 million to a company. And so back when I was living at home, going to university, working part-time, I was making $70,000 a year, and that was 1981. And back then, that was some pretty serious cash.
Nice, nice. Okay, next one. What is one book or resource that you'd recommend to the Salesman Podcast audience?
Think and Grow Rich. I think it's the book that every entrepreneur that's retired that I know attributes as their Bible. And it's not necessarily about making money. It's about finding your passion, plan, and purpose in life. Because if you can figure out what your passion is and you could build a plan to achieve it and make it your purpose on a daily basis, you could do anything you want in this world. And so that's my foundation book.
Good. I've got that. It's literally sat in front of me on the shelf over there I've read it twice now, and it's got so many post-it notes. It doesn't even close. It has to sit on the edge of the shelf because it won't fit in with all the other books. So I appreciate that. We'll link to that in the show notes. I think most people should have heard of it by now and should have read it because it comes up so often on the show. And final question, Jon, to wrap up the show, mate. And of course, you've been on the show before, so I'll reframe this question slightly so you can give perhaps a slightly different answer. So if you could sit down one-on-one with every single person who's listening to this show right now, the 10 to 20,000 people who are engrossed and really entertained with our conversation so far, but you can only offer them one piece of sales advice that goes across all industries, across B2B, a bit of B2C, the CEOs, the entrepreneurs that listen as well, what would that one piece of sales advice be?
I think the biggest piece of sales advice that I could ever share is that relationships matter. Sometimes I feel like the Don Quixote of relationship management. I've been saying the same thing since I invented contact management and sales automation and CRM some 30 years ago. But ultimately, I think we're coming full circle, and that relationships are critical to your business success, and that relationships are not about how you can make as much money from other people, but really, I think that we do business with people we like, ideally, and that those relationships will help you survive any kind of product or pricing change that ever occurs in your cycle with that customer. So take the time to build and nurture the garden around your business to create a sustainable garden. So it's not just about prospects and customers, but they're influencers as well. So if I'm a salesperson and I'm selling to a small or medium-sized business, I don't just look for those types of prospects, but maybe the people that influence them, they're trusted advisors as well. But building relationships across your entire community will help you to sustain any business shift or change.
Amazing stuff. I appreciate that, Jon. And with that, you've mentioned it. I talk about it all the time on the show. Tell us a little bit about Nimble and where we can find out more about it.
You bet. So I believe the fact that there's 225 million global businesses and less than 1% use any CRM is a testimony to the failure of CRM. And I often joke, but it's true. The reason they call it Salesforce is that you have to force salespeople to use it. Nobody in their right mind would use a CRM if they weren't beat on to do it. And I know, because I know every single thought leader in CRM, and none of them use any CRM. Most of them live in Outlook, Address Book, or Google Contacts. So our CRM is really our inbox or spreadsheets. And today, as a business, you have two operating systems, Office 365 or Google Apps for Work. They're very poor at contact management because they don't integrate email, contact, and calendar, and they don't do basic sales and market automation. And ultimately, you work for your CRM. It doesn't work for you. You have to Google somebody before a meeting. You have to log what you did, log what you know, and you have to go to it to use it. We built Nimble because it's the first CRM that works for you by building itself, by unifying the data that's already in your business, your email, contact, and calendar, enrich it with social and people and company data, and then helps you to use that everywhere you work, because you need context and insights in your inbox, in your social, in your business apps, for you to be able to be effective at engagement. And don't just think about automating sales and marketing people, because everybody in your company participates in the conversation with the people around your business. So Nimble is the system of record for relationships in your business, and then we'll do the basic social sales and marketing. And you could even use it inside of your existing social sales and marketing systems. You can learn more at nimble.com. You could also connect with me I'm Jon_Ferrara on Twitter. I would love to learn more about you and how I might be able to help you find your passion, plan, and purpose in life.
Amazing stuff. You heard it, Sales Nation. Reach out to Jon on Twitter. We'll link to Nimble. We'll link to the books. We'll link to everything else in the show notes over at salesman.red. And with that, Jon, thanks again for your time. Thanks again for your insights, which are truly unique, and I appreciate them and the attention that you've given us when you come on the show today. And with that, thank you for joining us on the Salesman Podcast.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. I'd love to come again soon.
And there we have it, Jon. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your insights. I appreciate that, mate. Sales Nation, if you want to learn more about this episode, head over to salesman.red/188. And with all that said, I'll speak with you all again on tomorrow's show.